Hey guys, it's Yvonne here. We're going to be going live here in a second, just making sure everything is all good to go on the technical end. Very excited about today's mornings with Mayesh. Hope you stick around. And it looks like we're all good. We're live everywhere. Awesome. Good. All right. Good morning, everyone. It's Yvonne here for our November 28th Mornings with Mayesh, probably our last of the year. So welcome, and I hope you can stay on because today I have Abby Chick of Abby Chick Flowers and our fifth and final Mayesh Design Star of 2024 going live with me today. Abby has taken our sustainability conversation to another level while taking on topics within retail and sympathy design as it pertains to sustainability. And today I'm really excited to kind of dive deeper while discussing the importance of profitability, barriers to sustainable practices for the average florist, and a whole bunch more. So while I am waiting for everyone to come on and join us, I just wanted to let you guys know, love to hear a shout out. Let us know where you are watching from. And also, just a reminder, if you have any questions for Abby, go ahead and post those in the comments. And we'll be keeping track of those and going over those as we can. And then also, just because I get asked this every episode, after we are live, I will be posting the replay on our blog along with the podcast. And then our replays on YouTube and YouTube and Facebook will be available right away for your guys' viewing pleasure. Also, a couple more things I have that are really, really exciting that are going on is I just launched, and I need to find the link because I forgot to copy that. But we just launched our Valentine's Day guide for florists. So really, really excited, guys. This goes into like super deep. This is like not our regular guide. This is like a 50-page guide, you guys. So I hope that you check it out. I'm going to put the link here in the comments for you. I'm going to go ahead and throw that up on the screen as well. So it's just info.mayesh.com / Valentine's guide. So definitely go check that out. There's also 2 bonuses, one with like a whole marketing campaign and another one with retention ideas. Those are 2 separate documents. So a ton of really amazing information, all for free. And I hope you check it out and I hope you love it. And also always looking for ideas for new guides, you guys. We're always wanting to develop kind of more of that in-depth information for you, and send me over your ideas if you have any. The next thing I wanted to make sure that you know about is we also have a holiday wrap-up raffle for the end of the year. So for every online order that meets a minimum of 750 or more, you'll get one entry for each of those orders into our raffle. And we're going to pick one winner per branch, so not just one winner. And we're going to announce the winners on January 5th. So you can win either a Mayesh poll, I think up to $500, or a free design rental space as well. So at participating Mayesh branches, not all of our Mayesh branches do that, but most of them do. So really cool. Hope you join the fun. And then also just a reminder, I mentioned it in my last live, but we have our Customer Appreciation Week coming up in January 15th, the week of that. It's a nationwide event, and I'm super excited. And we definitely are hosting our design contest, Battle of the Blooms, again. So just stay tuned for more details. Those will be coming out very, very soon. Okay, so that's all of my really cool Mayesh stuff that's happening. I wanted to make sure you guys are aware of. And now let's bring on Abby. Hey, Abby.
Hello, how are you?
I am so good. How are you?
Doing very well. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. And I seriously love Your first two videos so far. It's been a lot of fun. And honestly, this year has just been really, really amazing. And I know we have one more video with you to kind of wrap up the year. So it's just been really exciting. And I just wanted to thank you for just all of the amazing information and tips. And, a lot of times the videos are, focused on weddings or events and installs, that type of thing, the bigger stuff, which is amazing. And we need that too. But I'm really happy to kind of have this like retail focus in some of our videos as well. So just wanted to thank you for all of that goodness that you brought.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, for me personally, I mean, while I do weddings and events, and that's how I feel like I got my start in sustainability, that's where it started popping up first. I noticed that like there started to be this huge shift in one part of my business, but I was definitely being, held back in retail. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, this really isn't talked about. The worlds are very different for a lot of reasons, what you can get away with. A, when you have huge budgets, B, when you have an entire year to plan for something. But, just under sort of the umbrella of, everyday things, the one thing that, and I know we'll probably get into this a lot, but just time is such a luxury that you don't have when you're doing retail. And it started to occur to me that there's not much education out there and resources, that help in the world of sustainability when it comes to, the everyday market. And so I was really excited to be able to speak to sort of my people, which is all of the
Yes.
retail florists out there.
Yeah, awesome. And I know you have your people, and I know people know of you because of Mayesh Design Star and the other things that you're doing in the industry. But for those who may not know who you are, can you just introduce yourself a little bit and share about your flower story and how you got, into this whole thing that we're in?
Yeah. So I became a florist back when it was still a blue collar job. Yeah, I worked at a mom and pop shop. I got, my start when I was 19 on a break from college and just kind of needed something to do. And when I started doing it, it was, a lot of older women. I'm from a rural part of Virginia. It wasn't the sexy career that people are flocking and leaving their corporate jobs for. This was pre-Instagram,
Right, right.
so the way that I sort of came up in floristry comes from a really traditional American sense, and the way that we did everything. And now I can look back at the way that we operated our businesses, and I'm like, wow, there's so much wrong with that, and especially in the environmentally unfriendly practices that were commonplace. But that wasn't even part of the conversation at all. That wasn't even something that I think was on anybody's radar, which was,
Right.
17 years ago. So, I stuck with floristry because I fell in love with it. And it was sort of an interesting, right time, right place situation when the flower shop that I own now became available, sort of in the city where I grew up. And so I didn't know that I was going to do flowers for my career. I didn't know I could make a career out of it. I had just been doing it for 7 years and paying close attention because I'm a curious person. I watched the owner and I always wanted to know why he did things, why he bought things the way that he bought them, and, wanted to know about billing customers and all of the business side of things without really having a goal for, this is what I'm going to do. But I've owned my flower shop now for 12 years, and it's gone by very quickly, but, I've had to learn a lot. When I bought it, I was 26, and I think now, wow, that could have gone really horribly wrong. There was a lot I didn't know.
Right.
And there's a lot, quite frankly, that has changed that, I've had to abandon from the way that I was taught how to do things, just being someone's employee. But it's been an incredible journey, and I love retail floristry. I don't think I could ever just give up doing daily flowers and serving my community to just do, weddings and events. I really, I feel like retail florists for a long time were unsung heroes of the floral world, and the pandemic especially shifted that for so many florists. When they weren't able to do weddings anymore, they started doing daily work out of like a need for survival, but they fell in love with it too in a totally new way. So I feel like there's a lot more of us now. There's this like resurgence of the retail florist.
Yeah, which is really great, definitely. And I love that it was a natural type of thing for you. I love hearing everyone's story because it's always so different. Some people are just accidental. Some people, like you said, just needed a complete pivot from what they're doing. And then people like you who just, started working and ended up having their own business, which I think is amazing and definitely like kind of more of that traditional American success story type of thing.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's first touch on the topic that you brought up to us when we're trying to get ready for today of imposter syndrome. I've heard people talk about this before, and especially with you in relationship to being named kind of our Mayesh Design Star that's focused on sustainability. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, yeah, I mean, besides the fact that I have like 0 social media followers, when I got the call, I was like, "Are you sure?" But really, I think
Real quick,
yeah,
I want to mention we don't pick people because of that. I'm just
yeah.
throwing that out. There are companies that won't work with someone because of, their, maybe not as known as like Sue McCleary is watching right now. Shout out to Sue. She was our first design star this year. We don't pick people because of that. We really want people that have a passion, that have something to say, and that can, help us learn something in our industry. So just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I love that. Thank you for saying it. It's so true. I'm not famous at all. So I must have some substance, right?
Yes.
Um, no, I think like, and this is something that I've discussed at length with both Sue McCleary and Amy Bolsters, both of,
Yeah.
Mayesh Design Stars. And they were like, oh yeah, the imposter syndrome is real. So it was encouraging to know that like people of all different success levels, end up experiencing that. But I think especially around the sustainability topic, this year, knowing that I was selected as one, and every time I would do something in my daily business that I felt ashamed of, like using a brick of foam, I would
Right.
think, oh, I shouldn't be talking about this. I'm not doing things perfectly. I don't know the most. I'm not a scientist. I don't compost everything. I really don't have a right to be talking about this. And it's simply not true. But I think that the problem, one of the big problems that, I will talk to anybody who will listen to about this particular topic in our industry, is that it has become quite divisive. Like, as divisive as like the political spectrum in America,
Right.
there seems to be this, and everything online is heightened, but, almost this mudslinging, where I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about the things that I was doing that I felt like were good because they weren't good enough. And if I'm still using foam sometimes, then I'm not allowed to talk about why it's bad, because I think there's this like all or nothing mentality sometimes.
Right.
And it's not helpful. It made me feel, there were times where I felt defeated, like you run into a wall, you try to do something better, and then you're like, well, when you start, running the numbers essentially of, well, is this any better than foam, or is this, there's a problem here, like this fiber floral media is not a toxic floral foam, but it still has to be mined. So, so it's not good enough. And I think that if you sort of pay attention too much to the negativity around the topic, it can make you not want to talk about it at all because you don't want anybody coming after you.
Right.
And, you know, like, which I see all the time. Like, I see, I've even done it. I've even been an internet troll. And I hate that. But it's like, you see somebody and they're not doing something the way that you're doing it or that you think that they should be doing it, and it's so easy to hide behind your thumbs, you know,
It
and your
is.
keyboard and
Yeah.
say, well, you know, that's an invasive and invasives are the problem. Well, there's a lot of problems actually. Like, so what did you come here for? Did you come here just to be a negative person, or are you actually trying to engage in conversation? And so I think, like, um, the one thing that I wanted to encourage people the most with my videos, because at first I was like, well, these ideas are kind of simple. You know, they're not these huge game changing methods, but they're just these teeny tiny things that you can implement in your business. And I was hoping that that would be helpful. And the response that I got to my first video was overwhelming. So many florists reached
Yes.
out and were like, this is game changing, just the use of a rubber band, you know. But it's like, without having a small conversation with Amy Balsters, you know, when I was learning like her spiral method and that, it was like that little thing that she taught me was a spark of an idea. And if we don't continue those conversations with other people, then innovators aren't going to have the ideas to make changes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was such a tangent. You really got
No.
me going.
No, it's not a tangent, and I think that all makes sense, and it also, like, again, it's kind of that imposter syndrome, but also just kind of like it's scary putting yourself out there. It just is, because people, I do think, have gotten very comfortable with saying things online that they would never say to someone's face. Like, that's what I always try to
Yeah.
teach my girls, right? Because they're growing up with this, like, from a very young age. And it's like, if you wouldn't go up to someone and be like, okay, this is what I think, then you shouldn't be putting it out there in the world at all, because it's better to be more kind. And I've also taught my girls, and we'll talk about it here, that I think the people who are negative and spend that time doing the trolling, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine spending precious time, because we all have a very finite amount of it, just being negative and picking on people online, and not really accomplishing anything. Like, I just feel bad for those people that is what they need to fill their life. And that's kind of how I try to remember for my own, because you're you, and we have, a whole year of videos and all the different things that we do, and some of the times people send us things and they just rip us to shreds, and I'm like, okay, then. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to do something positive here, and I'm all about feedback. I want to get feedback, but if you're just gonna just throw just nastiness around, then I feel bad for you. So
Well, and I think, you know, it's one of the reasons why I was so excited to be a design star, which, you know, because I've never really thought of myself to, I'm gonna just totally say this, I'm not like the best designer. I'm great at business. I love floristry. I love the industry. I love crunching numbers, but, you know, and I love problem solving, because I do care. I care about the fact that, you know, for the most part, the world has no idea that floristry is not an eco-friendly industry as a
right.
whole. You know, like, there are so many problems. You know, foam is like, honestly, just the tip of the iceberg. And so when Mayesh wanted to talk about this openly, you guys are importers, right?
Right. Yeah.
You are absolutely someone who, I would say, not should be scared of talking about this, but it's like, you know, some of the biggest critics of, you know, how bad importers, you know, are, and who are, you know, American grown, not flown, all of that. Um, I would think would possibly even come at Mayesh for wanting to be part of this conversation. But for me, it's like you guys also buy a ton of American grown product. You are huge supporters of florists in general, and you should be part of the conversation. And not only should you be part of the conversation, but you are actually like gifting people free education. There's a lot of gatekeeping around sustainability that I have a problem with
Right.
personally. I'm not saying the educators shouldn't get paid for what they know and teaching people. I really believe in paying people what they're worth, but I also think that if you really want to make change in this big way, then you share openly and freely with your discoveries. And people like Sue McCleary, she is one of the biggest sharers and supporters I feel
Yes.
like that's out there. And like we were talking just recently about candles and centerpieces. And Holly Chappell actually called me and she goes, "What are you doing in your centerpieces now that you don't use foam?" And we had this long conversation. It's like, I sometimes think that innovators who are like Sue McCleary, who has moved past doing daily work for people, she might not have even been aware of, yeah, how are we putting taper candles in centerpieces without foam and plastic anymore? And she went right to work on it. She has the bandwidth and the intelligence to tackle some of these things. And so I just mentioned to her, like, hey, this is a problem. And she went right to work on trying to find a solution, which is just, it's so encouraging when people are willing to not just like talk about a problem, when they're actually willing to work on a solution.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I did want to touch on your point about Mish being kind of could have been scared to be part of this conversation. And I do want to
Yeah.
share, like, we absolutely were. Like, we really had no idea how this year was gonna go. We
Yeah.
do know that there are a lot of keyboard warriors out there, just not even about sustainability, just about design or what everyone's doing. And but sustainability is definitely like a hot topic. And we've had difficult conversations with different companies, and it's just, I just wanted to try it, and just be brave. That's that's what we ended up at. We're like, we're gonna try it. And a lot of, my team is very, very passionate about this, and we have David Dawson and all of that too. So we made it happen. But it's definitely, we always get nervous for every year, but this year was definitely like a little edgier for sure, because we're just
Well,
like,
it made
hopefully it
me,
goes well.
I was so impressed with the fact that you guys would take on this topic, because it is so easy to be scared and be like, well, I don't want to talk about this because then I'm bringing attention to myself. And then somebody's going to go back through, my Instagram history and see me using foam and then call
Right.
me out. It's like,
Yeah. And what
it's
we
so important.
Yeah, and what we do, it isn't all, what you would consider sustainability, but, as kind of, I always think about like our first panel discussion, and we had so many just really great minds talking. And I just feel like the big takeaway from there was, you know, no one's truly, even the people that say that they are sustainable, just, you have to think about your whole life, right? Like, even so, in my last meeting, David Dawson like came on. He always joins me. He's not part of my team. He's like an unofficial part. He's an unofficial part of our team, I guess. And so he like comes and joins our meetings, and he was like, I just read this article or watched a video, I don't even know, about like how a ton of those microplastics are ending up in like our systems and things like that are actually coming from the tires of the cars on the pavement. And he's like, so what are you supposed to do, not drive at all? Like, now that's like a whole nother huge issue. Before, it's like the car is driving, now it's the actual like tires of the car. And how do you solve that problem, right? That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, unless you're just living on a farm in the middle of nowhere and you're completely self-sustained,
Right.
I just think we all need to be kind to each other and support each other wherever we are on that path, of
That's
trying to
it.
do
Because
better for the earth.
nobody can do everything perfectly. And new information is going to continue to emerge and come out. And
Yes.
there's trade-offs, and it's like, to pretend too that you are doing things perfectly, it's just it's crazy. I'm just very I'm happy and I'm emboldened to be more vocal about it, and I'm really proud to be in the likes of people like Mayesh, who are like, yeah, we know we're not doing things perfectly, nobody is, and let's talk about it, because we don't accomplish anything by just singing to our echo chambers,
Right.
you
Exactly.
know? And even
Exactly.
with a company like Oasis, I actually see it as a huge step in the right direction that a company like Oasis, whose main, product that everyone is deemingly so, so problematic, we've deemed it as, this is a problem, we need to get rid of it. They are actively working on it and producing other products to try to replace it. So
Yes. And I want everyone to remember that too. I mean, and they're a huge global company, like that has the money to do the research and figure things out. And yeah, they have teams of people working on these issues all the time and coming up with a lot of different ideas. So I think it's important to support those kinds of companies because we need and want that change, and I think that's again, they're just kind of like us. Yes, we have issues, but we're trying to like have that conversation and figure things out and move forward.
yeah.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about your upcoming video that we're going to be
Yes.
sharing soon. And you dive more into the importance of profitability as it pertains to the success and survival of your business. So can you start off explaining exactly what you mean by that?
Yeah. I really just get into the math. I talk very openly in the video about, like, here's what my markups are. Here's what this beautiful pool that's in front of you is actually worth and what it costs. And, I think when you're trying to, no, operating a business, especially a floral business, is hard enough as it is. Okay.
Right.
It is not something where you have tons of hours free all the time to just think about, how am I going to make things better? You are just in the trenches, getting the work done day in, day out, 60 hours a week. I'm here, and when I'm home, I'm thinking about it,
Right.
so it's not like you have like this huge, and I think some people make a lot of money at it, and that's awesome that they figured it out. But I also just wanted to take a very realistic look at, here's what the daily, offering looks like in my flower shop. Here's what it costs me. Here's what I mark it up as. Here's what I sell it. And I think that a lot of people who are entering floristry have these ideas. There are newer florists who have never touched a brick of foam, who are flower farmers, who are growing their own stuff, and
Mhm.
they're talking about, well, I pay my people a living wage and I'm using only local flowers and I can't make it work. What's wrong? And it's like, that's fine that you're doing all of these things sustainably, but you're missing a bigger portion of what makes a successful business. And ultimately, the more changes that I've made to be sustainable, the more I've had to realize, like, it's not the cheaper, faster alternative. In fact, sometimes you're really having to do some pretty serious trade-offs to make it work financially. And if you're
Right.
not paying attention to your numbers and buying correctly, and and that's the other thing, a wholesaler comes to you, a local farmer comes to you with a car full of gorgeous dahlias. It's hard to like be thinking about numbers when you're pulling out the,
Yes.
the truck. So it's, I think it's a lot harder to be as profitable as maybe you were before you started doing things in a really sustainable way, frankly. And so I think it's also hard for florists to make these shifts because they're already working so hard to keep their businesses going in the first place, that it's like now we're trying to save the planet too while we're at it. That's a big job.
Right.
And I care. And again, it's not that I don't care about design. I love flowers, but the business side of things is what I am so much more passionate about. And, you know, teaching florists how they can sort of move their business forward, how they can blend more local flowers in with their imports, how they can create really profitable, beautiful recipes without having to just throw everything in the kitchen sink under, and, you know, they've got $400 worth of flowers in one compote and they're selling it for $80. I see that all the time.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's really where I was like, okay, my last video, nobody asked for this, but this is what they're getting from me, is some math.
Well, I love math, and even for the people that don't love math, you need to learn to at least tolerate it and learn about it. And like you said, like, sustainability is great, but the sustainability of your actual business is the most important thing, just so you can keep doing what you're doing and keep down that path and do something you're passionate about. So I'm looking forward
Absolutely.
to it, and I can't wait to share it with the world, guys.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, you know, especially because there are tons of florists out there who don't care about the planet. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that there are tons. I've never met a florist. The internet would have me believe that retail florists don't care at all about the earth, but I've never actually met one that was like, yeah, I'm here to destroy the planet. That's what
Right.
my goal is. But there are plenty of florists who are out there just not happy to do the status quo, but again, are so busy just making their business work. They're happy to just make the traditional things that they know work for them, that they know bring them money. And so if I'm over here saying, oh, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to put roses in your mom's casket spray because I only use locally grown. Well, that person's just not going to buy from me because there's like 4 other florists in my area who will do that for them.
Right.
And then I'm out of business. And then so it doesn't matter, you know, that I'm trying to do things sustainably because I don't have a flower business anymore. So you really kind of have to meet people where they're at to a certain extent. And you can educate your clients, you can talk about things, which you should. The more we talk about things, the more aware. You know, I was just talking to my neighbor, the bookstore owner, this morning, and she was asking what this interview was about. And she was just like, I had no idea there were this many problems in the floral. And I'm like, yes, there
Yes.
are, you know, and so, but that's a big job just to put that on florists in general. Like, we've got all the time in the world to be
Yes.
talking to every person who comes through our door about the problems in the industry. That's not what people are there for. They're there for me to solve a problem and to get a present, you know?
Right, right.
Um,
Exactly.
so, but
And
we
I
fight the good fight.
Exactly, and I feel like this is a good segue for my next question is,
Mhm.
talking about, what are some of these main barriers to sustainable practices for the average florist? As you mentioned, it is difficult, and people are working, and I have friends that are actual florists that own retail flower shops, and I know they're just knee deep in stems most of the time and just trying to get through the week. So
Yeah, I would love to have more time to play with different composting methods, you know, but it's like the green waste stacks up, you know, each day, and something needs to be done with it. And more often than not, it's going to the landfill. And we
Right.
don't have something in my area. I think, you know, when I look at Canada, when I look at the UK and systems that are in place, to help florists deal with their green waste problem, you know, it makes me feel bad because I'm like, I want to be doing more, but I'm here working, missing, you know, bedtime with my kids so that I can get funeral orders done the next day. You know,
Right.
it's not for a lack of caring, it's a lack of time and bandwidth to be able to solve these very complex, you know, problems. And the other thing too is that, again, when it comes to time, it's like you've got a day, you know, same day or 2 day turnaround on most of your orders. You're looking to get the flowers in, and you're going to get them from the people who can get them to you, you know? And so as much as I want to buy local right now, there's nothing growing locally in my area. So unless you want floristry to cease to exist, you know, in its current state, which is that nobody's getting flowers, you know, year round, then we're not going to get rid of imports. And I'm not going to stop ordering from my wholesaler because I need flowers here tomorrow to help my clients. So I think, you know, besides just the fact that a cost of fiber floral media is, or a brick of fiber floral media, it's such a mouthful to say, or agra
Yeah.
wool, or the ocean pouch, you know, all of these other, and hopefully the new foam labs innovation that I am eagerly waiting for. These are often much more expensive than just
Right.
a traditional brick. So you have to offset that cost somewhere, or, you know, you have to do the work to like slowly bump up your prices, because you can't just absorb those costs and have a business that's going to be financially stable.
Right, right. Yeah, you kind of touched this, but there was a question that came through from I Care About You. Is there a community crops garden organization or any farms that would want that for their compost? But you said there really isn't anyone growing anything around you.
Well, oh, so there is. There's a ton of growers that I work with. They're just the time of year right now is the
Right,
crops have gone to bed for the year. So the problem with what we get in is that a lot of people don't want to touch imported products in their home compost. Susan McCleary has fabulous ideas. Yes, she does. Penny Stone. Yes, she does.
yes, she
Um,
does.
so I think it was James Della Prince. I watched, and I don't want to mangle this, but Hitomi Gilliam put on a sustainability summit with Gregor Lurch last year. It was phenomenal. Just the work that they did to bring about so many helpful resources in this sort of online forum summit that they did. But there was a guy who works at a university, and I know his name was James Della Prince, but he actually showed that the half-life on a lot of those pesticides that everybody is so worried about in the compost, they didn't show up. So you can compost your imports, but it's like that information is not widespread. There's a certain
Right,
way that you have to compost it to get rid of, you know, some of those nasty things that are on there. And there's just not a lot of clear direction out there that is very difficult. You really have to spend a lot of time digging for this information. It's not readily accessible. And there we go into time and bandwidth. Who,
right.
you know,
So who should I feel like that should be a whole thing, because I always wonder that too when someone's like, "You gotta just compost your stuff," but I'm like, Can we? Do we? How do you do that?" Like, we haven't really gone into how do you compost it, and even the stuff that might be grown locally, they might be using pesticides too and things like that, unless they're like this organic farm, that type of thing. But, eh, there's always like the pros and cons to that too. I mean, you have things that have little holes in it and they don't look pristine and perfect. And will your customers care or not about that? That's a whole
and
nother.
they do. I mean, quite frankly, they do. They Susan McCleary just said floral green waste is most efficiently dealt with in industrial compost setting. Many states don't have these programs in place, unfortunately, and that is the sad truth. You know,
Right.
in Canada and the UK, a lot of this is so much more accessible, and I know in my local jurisdiction, I don't have that available to me. I've looked, and so it's incredibly frustrating. And, you know, this again goes back to the mudslinging online. Like, my gosh, we could all be working together to make things happen at a state level, you know, that would be a better use of our time than name calling online for like, hey, you used bittersweet,
Right.
you know? So, um,
Yeah, I actually remember us speaking of bittersweet. I think we posted a picture last year and we like literally like as soon as we posted it, it like
oh, I bet you got
lit
torn to
up.
shreds.
Oh, it lit up, and I was like, "I'm pretty sure wherever it's grown isn't invasive, but I don't know how all that works either." I just so we, like, took it down, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah, it was a little scary there for a second, and I didn't know. Yeah, I learned something, but
You
yeah.
learn something,
Yeah,
yeah. But it's like shaming will oftentimes it'll make people remove their posts. It does sometimes teach them something that they didn't know, but it doesn't lead to lasting change. I don't think it does the intended thing that we want it to do.
right, right, right,
Um,
right. So
so
Penny says, I wonder if we could all talk to our city managers to add great compost to our city projects. And I think that Penny too. And then also like we all have like, most of the states have like state floral associations. We have some of the big associations. Maybe these are projects that they can help with, getting some of that money that they bring in from their members and spending resources there because as you mentioned, it is hard. Like, does everyone have time to like go to their find who they need to talk to and talk to the right person and then get enough people behind it? Because one person bringing up that idea might not get the action that you want. You usually need like,
right.
a
There's
big group
strength
of
in
people.
numbers,
Right.
and I think that's where most of our efforts are best spent is trying to work collectively on a problem because it's not something that one of us alone can solve for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But I think that's a great idea, Penny. Okay, next question. And I feel like we've talked a little bit about this, but how do you navigate all of these issues and, take a balanced approach while maintaining the integrity of your work? And we've kind of said this, like there's the integrity of your work. You need to be able to still sell the things that the customers want too?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so that's kind of, and I think I said this in my first video, but everything that I do, I filter it through the lens of the end product, and what the customer is used to getting. So like, if flower arrangements, as ridiculous this is, people want them to last a week, right?
Right.
So that means if I send something out that is not going to last a week, like a dahlia, lots of people, yeah, sure, it looks pretty, but it's going to give you 3 to 4 days best. A cafe au lait is not going the distance in an arrangement. I have to talk about that with them. I have to show them that there's value in other ways, if it's not longevity. And you can do that by directly having a conversation with someone, or you can post about it on your social media, so when dahlia season comes, into bloom, you can post about them and talk about like, their ephemeral qualities. And while they
Right.
don't last long, they're showstoppers. So I really make sure that I pay attention to the longevity of flowers, so wherever I'm getting them from. And I honestly, I worked with Harmony Harvest. They're a local grower here. They actually ship all over the country. They're incredibly wonderful women who are great friends of mine that, we have worked together for years talking about like the problems. I know there are lots of people who buy from a local farm, don't like their stuff or have an issue with something, and then they just don't buy from them again. And so we've had a lot of difficult conversations over the years of like, hey, here's why I'm not buying your status. It's not that you don't make great status, it's that you need to sell it for this amount to make money. And I can buy status, which is a bloom that most of my customers see as like a cheap filler flower.
Right.
There's a perception problem there. And so I'm actually really excited for them. They're working, it's such a tangent, but they're working on the Mum Project. And they have the largest collection in the United States of heirloom mums. And mums have great vase life. They're a
Yes.
huge showstopper that has like a long seasonality. And they're working really hard to bring a crop to the American grown movement that can rival the things that don't grow as well here in America, like carnations and roses. And
Mhm.
so I think, working closely with, your local growers and farmers and having, tough conversations with them about like, this is what I like from you. This is what I need. I need stem length. I need vase life, and that's one way that I have been able to really get a solid mix of stuff in my shop, throughout the year that I can feel good about where my money is going. I'm buying my stuff from Mayesh, and I love my imports. I'm never going to stop using them, but I also have enough business where I can really support both. And I have lots of local growers actually that I work with. So the flower thing, I mean, obviously the quality of flowers, you can't just buy local and expect people to get on board because you bought local. Because you're right, sometimes it's bug eaten.
Right.
Sometimes it's not perfect. It's like produce, right? Like your organic produce is not cheaper, and it's not the pretty stuff that you see in the grocery stores. And so, but I think, there needs to be more conversation around that. Boy, I get off on so many tangents here. I don't even remember what the original question was.
It's okay. We were just talking about maintaining kind of the integrity of your work while you're,
Yeah.
trying to be more sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I can bring that back around. That's how I maintain the integrity.
You did. I wanted to mention Amy Balsters had a comment on Instagram when we were talking about composting. So I'm just going to bring it back to that real quick. But she mentioned that New York just cut their composting program, and I think that's the problem too. Like I've actually heard about. I think even my own cities can contemplate about not even recycling anymore, like not having that program, and then it just makes it. Am I going to take my stuff to the recycle center? I mean, I might pay someone to come pick up my recycling stuff, like like have my groceries delivered to the house because that isn't something I want to spend my time on, But a
Right.
lot of
And,
people don't have that luxury.
I think, people who, and maybe they do care more. Maybe there's a lot of people who care way more than what I do, but it comes down to capacity.
Right.
And ultimately, not everyone has the same capacity. Not everyone has a car in a city and has access to, easy public transportation where they can lug all of their recycling to the recycling center. So,
yeah, it makes it tough.
Yeah.
Doing those things when they're not readily available, and then and then they're taking it away because I don't know why. Be curious to know like why New York decided to cut the program. Probably funding,
Yeah.
but it's complicated, that's for sure. Okay, thank you for that comment, Amy. Anyone else have comments or questions? Let us know. Penny says if we could partner up with Park and Rec, it could be done. Park and Recs could pick up. True.
It's a
But
great
again,
idea.
it takes money and resources, and so you have to talk to people into shifting resources to do that, and then figuring out, do we get more resources somehow, or do we have to take resources away from something else?
This is why I this is why I made my first video what it was, because when you really start getting into it, it's like guzzling from the ocean. It's overwhelming. It can make
Yeah.
you feel defeated, and it can make you kind of want to go, why bother? I can't fix it,
Yep.
So you really have to like take a deep breath and just sort of do what you can, because you can't do everything. But I honestly believe that if every florist used one less box of foam a year, that would add up to a huge amount, and so it doesn't have to be this thing where we solve all of the problems. That's what I keep coming back to, is because if you get too into it, you can go down the rabbit hole and end up feeling really crummy about the whole situation.
Yeah. I just saw another question come in from the real HMJ. They say, or they ask, any advice for someone who's interested in starting a flower shop with the current marketplace? So,
Any advice, honey? We made a whole course about it.
and where can they find that course?
So I partnered with Flower Click. It is an incredible company that's helped my business for years and years and years. Vonda Lefevre, she's AIFD designer. She is as old as floristry itself. No, I'm totally kidding. And I hope she's watching and she's going to yell at me for saying that. No, she is an institution in the floral industry, and she knows running a successful flower shop. She's like, I told her long ago, I would follow you anywhere. You are a goddess. Uh, and she has this company where she helps flower shops, and she merchandises, their company merchandises my website, and they produce different courses, educational resources for florists. And so a while ago, after the pandemic, I'm part of a group, Chapel Designers, and a lot of them were sort of having to pivot to retail. And so, being one of the only retail florists in the group, I ended up talking to a lot of them, and I just thought, wow, there's so much that people don't know about the differences in how you operate a business when you're doing daily work, and how the customers are different, and how the arrangements are different. And so I really started talking with her, and I'm like, there's a ton of people who want to get into floristry and who don't want to do things the way that we did them 20 years ago. We need a fresh perspective on running a modern flower shop. And so that was sort of the birth of this real life retail floristry course that we put out. And we're actually working right now. We're doing some mini courses from it and rebundling just to sort of help people. Not everybody needs the entire course, and it's like hundreds of videos. It's basically like going to college on running a retail flower shop. And so we have things that are kind of bundled together to help somebody who's maybe just starting out, or someone who really needs to look at scaling their business, or when is it time to hire. We've got spreadsheets to help people, figure out the numbers part of it. Design videos, how to order flowers from your wholesaler, how to become your wholesaler's favorite rep. So you can ask Brian, I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm his favorite customer. No.
I know you are.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm really excited about, just because Flower Click is a company who has been proven to help my business make a lot of money over the years. And so it was really exciting to get to work on this with them.
Good. Awesome. So I put the link for your education website in the
Excellent.
comments. And so if you guys go there and click on collaborations, you'll find the real life retail florist course
Yeah.
that's there that Abby just described. So check that
We
out.
actually have some other things that are going to be launching soon, some other products specifically for retail florists that are game changing, I would say. I'm going to use my own word here, but I would say that they are game changing for florists, and to help them sell more of the designs that they want to be selling, more of the flowers and the mixes that they want to be selling, trend forward designs and recipes, and ways to help you get started and have a successful offering for your client base that's for your website. So I'm really excited to announce all of that. And so basically, I have an email list, because you have to have one of those things, I guess, if you want to tell people about what you're launching. You have to have an email list, apparently. So I have one of those now you can sign up for.
Very important, guys.
Yeah, and I
have
do
an
not
email list.
I do not bombard people with unnecessary emails. I'm not about that. So just the facts, just the, hey, here's the new product announcement will be the only emails you'll be receiving from me. But I'm also excited. In January, I am going to be teaching doing a presentation, a show down for North Carolina State Floral Association that Mayesh of Charlotte is sponsoring.
Yay!
So, did
Yeah,
you know about that?
I do. Yes, I know
Oh,
about that. I get CC'd on all the different things and making sure, yeah, because we get so many requests. Yeah, but that's really
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. And basically it's going to be talking a little bit about design, but a lot about the business of running a modern flower shop and, what are the best flowers to stock, what are, some easy trend forward designs that you can do and how to teach your staff how to, design in a more creative way that's still really fast and efficient. Um, and basically how to design for your website so that you can have a website that operates in a really functional way that performs as good as some of the what's a wire service you know
Right.
websites,
Mhm.
but that really look a little bit more modern and trendy and kind of in the newer styles, not so
Right.
old school.
The
So
newer styles that can really reflect your brand, I think, is important.
exactly,
So,
yes.
to kind of set yourself apart a little bit, which speaking of, I did just share your retail florist website too for
Oh,
anyone that wants to
thank
check
you.
that out. So,
Thank you. Keith Morris, yes. She's
yeah.
been good to me. I love her. I'm in my new shop, um, which has been a big thing, moving my shop over the last couple of months into our new location has just about killed me. But
I can only imagine. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. I finally have a private office that we're in. So
Nice. That's always exciting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I did get one more comment that I wanted to share before we have to wrap up here.
Hmm.
It's from Tula Rosa Flowers. And she said, I've seen some florists use small chippers for floral waste so that way they can get more into their green bin. So that's a good little tip there. I like
That's
that.
a great tip. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because
we
you
all need to
definitely have to
first.
break it down smaller in order for it to be successfully composted. So that's great.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Thank you for sharing, Dawn. All right, guys. So Abby, anything else that you have on your mind that you wanna share in less than a minute?
No, I can't believe we actually kept it to the right amount of time. I'm a bit of a talker, so I'm pleased.
Yes, no, it was so great. Thank you so much for, first of all, being brave and being a Mayesh Design Star this year. So appreciate that, and all of the amazing content that you've helped us create, and your time today and spending with us and, doing this whole live thing with me.
My pleasure. You were very gentle. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you. So, guys, that is a wrap on today's Mornings with Mish and this year's probably. So, I just wanted to take a minute and wish everyone a really wonderful holiday season. And just again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for just all of your support over the years, whether you're new now or you've been here watching since I've started. I just really appreciate it. And then, of course, just support with Mayish as well, because we have to sell flowers to be able to do all these cool things and all the education and all of that. So, just your support means the world to me and the rest of the company. That is for sure. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. And truly, have an amazing holiday season. I hope it's filled with just lots of love and joy. And again, thanks so much for spending this last hour with us. And I will see you all soon. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.